When building a deck, these 3 special slots would catch anyone's attention. They allow you to use stronger versions of your current cards for absolutely no downsides. So making sure you use all 3 of them is important, or dare I say, a necessity for deck building. The first one is the evolution slot, which is self-explanatory. You have to pick one of these evolutions to build your deck around. The second one is the hero slot, and it's a bit less obvious. While it allows you to promote one of your cards into a hero, it also is used to play champions since they can't be placed on the regular slot. And unlike evolutions, the buff isn't free, you have to pay elixir for it. But these 2 slots aren't what I'm concerned about. I'm more interested in the wild slot, a slot that can use both heroes and evolutions, because it opens up the discussion of using 2 Evos versus 2 heroes. Now from the top of your head, you might just say it since evolutions are cycle based, as in you play more of them the faster your cycle is, then it means that cycle decks would generally prefer 2 evolutions and 1 hero, as they can utilize the mechanic much more effectively. Yeah, that's right, keep spamming me. Especially since deploying 2 of the same hero deactivates the first one, which makes heroes slightly less relevant for cycle decks. The opposite end of this stick is that since heroes are available every cycle, logically that means the slower beatdown decks would prefer them over Evos, right? I would say to an extent 2 Evos for cycle and 2 heroes for beatdown makes a small amount of sense, but the topic has more nuance. For example, decks with Elixir Collector have this issue where the moment they pump, the opponent will just go all in to punish them. In that case, running more evolution can be helpful for them because it makes it easier to defend when you are very down on Elixir. Lava Hound is also an example of a beatdown deck that prefers using 2 evolutions because they really need that strong ground defense with Evo Valk. You might say, why don't they play Evo Valk with 2 heroes? The truth of the matter is that Evo Zap is kinda hard to let go of for Lava Hound decks. It has so many necessary interactions that would otherwise not become possible if you're playing regular Zap. Golem surprisingly prefers playing 2 Evos instead of 2 heroes, and the reason makes so much sense. For Golem decks, they usually defend for the first half of the game and wait for double elixir, which works out for them because single elixir is great to cycle to Evos. When double elixir hits, they build that one massive push, and having 2 Evos in one push is much cheaper than having 2 heroes and needing to spend elixir on their ability. Now looking into cycle, the one deck that actually prefers 2 heroes is the giant mini P.E.K.K.A Magic Archer deck. Yes, this is a cycle deck despite having a giant. Why is he looking at me like that? The reason is that this deck doesn't really face any issues when going against bait or other cycle decks, but when playing against a P.E.K.K.A and other heavy decks, it feels impossible to break through, which is why they play Hero Giant over Evo Skeletons. Overall, the main takeaway from these points is that A. Super heavy decks prefer 2 Evos to build an insanely massive push. B. Super cheap decks prefer 2 Evos to play them as much as possible. Which leaves us with option C. Decks that are in the middle of those 2 ends. This usually boils down to bridge spammy decks and lighter beatdown decks such as Giant Double Prince, which always uses 2 heroes. For bridge spam, they still play 2 evolutions, however this is mainly because they have no good hero options. I am willing to bet that if we get a hero battle ram or a hero bandit, it will quickly replace the 2 Evos they use. I mean, these cards aren't really that good cycled in the back and are instead better used to do multiple mini pushes. And when you are doing mini pushes every now and then, with a hero, you might find more opportunities to use the ability to win the game. Besides deck archetype, I also want to talk about how single, double, and triple elixir affect this. Since Evos need 1 or 2 cycles, you won't have access to them in single elixir for the most part. You could cycle them first play, but playing a minion horde with no knowledge of your opponent's deck will just lose you the game. So generally speaking, with 2 Evos in your deck, you are at a slight disadvantage and need to be stalling or defending. With heroes, your joker cards are available from the get-go, so you realistically are at an advantage. You have the option to start head people if you want, because I don't even know how this push would be countered without a building in their hand, or play aggressively to press your early game advantage. What's the matter, Bucko? Can't keep up? Now while this does apply to every Evo, as in all evolutions become better in triple elixir than they are in double and single elixir, I guess some slight exceptions exist. No one talks about how broken this shit is, by the way. Heroes are a bit different because some of them can be harder to use in single elixir and some of them are near unusable in triple elixir. It really depends on which hero you are using. Oh, hi Marowak. What? You use Hero Magic Archer? Can you follow me? I want to show you something. First example I want to go into is Hero Balloon, and it basically has cracked ability in single elixir. When both players don't have a lot of elixir, being able to fully take out a wizard for 2 elixir would win you the game. Not to mention that it's much harder for them to distract it in single elixir, especially if they played something in the back before you attack. But in triple elixir, the arena would be full of troops. It's very hard for the balloon to stay alive long enough or even get his trooper on the right target. Then when we take a look at Hero Ice Golem, his effects become much better in triple elixir because there are more troops to be frozen. On top of that, if you take the tower in triple elixir, the game ends, so overcommitting with an ability isn't that punishing. Usually, heroes that suck in triple elixir like Balloon are better paired with 2 Evos to balance things out, whereas Ice Golem works fine in double hero decks because it's good in late game, so it fills that role of an Evo more. There is also a category of heroes that have an ability which requires other cards to be present to get you value. Other than Knight, Hero Goblins also need a card to tank for them to get something going. So using both Knight and Goblin is a bit awkward because it's hard to find elixir to activate both abilities in single elixir. Think of it this way. The Knight's ability is more of a support ability, so it's best paired with 2 evolutions. But heroes like Wizard that have an ability which can be useful on its own can work in a double hero deck more than Knight does. And one last important factor is the meta. A lot of the times, meta decks aren't flexible enough to change entire cards. For example, Balloon 2.9 always uses Bomb Tower even in non-swarmy metas. But what they can do is change the form of their evolution or heroes to adapt to certain things. Let me give you an example. If Tesla is the dominant building in the current meta, then Evo Musketeer is a must-use for that deck. But if Goblin Hut is the go-to choice, then Evo Musketeer might just be horrible for you to use. Instead, you should opt into swapping her for Hero Balloon because it deals much better with the Spear Goblins. So while Double Evos is objectively the better choice in majority of the decks in the game, you might have exceptions where decks like Hawk 2.6 would straight up run double heroes to counter certain metas. Wait, am I not forgetting something? Oh yeah, those things. They're irrelevant, but I guess I'll talk about them. Now, champions are undoubtedly the weakest of all 3 card forms. However, that doesn't mean you can pretend they don't exist and use 2 Evos and a hero. The thing is that a Mighty Miner is just a very unique card on its own that you can't really replace him. Like yes, in the case of a mini P.E.K.K.A, you can say the hero sucks, I'll just use the regular one to make room for an extra evolution. But in decks with champions, the card itself is needed, so such comparison can't be made. If you are playing something like Archer Queen Royal Hogs, just know that you have a slot locked and all you can do is use 2 Evos. So basically what I'm trying to say is that with heroes, you have a choice to consider whether an Evo is better for you or a hero is better for you. But with champions, if a deck uses 1 or 2 of them, you are likely locked. They aren't as replaceable as heroes are. This whole video was made because someone in the comments asked for it, and honestly, it's such a goated idea. I'm sorry I don't remember your name, I get like 1,000 comments a month, but great idea, my dude.